Welcome to the One Day at a Time Recovery Podcast, where my guests share their stories of addiction, how they recovered, and the tools and practices they use to stay sober now. Well, Sam, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, I don't know how to talk. We're like, yeah, let's start recording. And then you're like, oh, welcome to the podcast, Sam. And all you have to say is, hey. That's how this is gonna be.
Yeah, this will be fun. You're a comedian, so we're going to have a good time. We're going to tell some stories.
That's a lot of pressure. I don't know.
Yeah.
It might not
Yeah.
be one of those mornings for me.
Well, listen, I don't want it to be like you have to perform, but if you do, I won't hate it. You know
No,
what
it's
I'm
fine. I'm
saying?
generally just kind of funny. I feel like I always tell this to folks that if I stopped doing comedy, I'd still be funny, and if I never started, I'd be funny. I like making people laugh everywhere I go
That's
because it makes me
awesome.
feel alive. It makes me feel connected. Maybe I'm not a weirdo. Maybe I'm
Maybe
just
you're not.
wacky. Maybe I'm a silly boy, not a criminal.
Not a criminal. Oh, we'll get
Yeah.
to that too.
Yeah, you guys can figure that out.
We'll get to that. I like to start the podcast, the fun little game I call the lightning round, which is actually very
Oh,
slow,
hell yeah.
so no pressure. But when you first got sober, were there any books that really helped you early on?
Uh, you know what's funny? It's not one that I read when I got sober. It's actually a book that I read when I was in jail. This book called Ishmael,
Oh,
about existentialism that really helped. It's about like this gorilla, and I don't remember a lot of it, but it's like this guy going to this zoo and he winds up like telepathically communicating with the gorilla. And I really appreciated that and those ideas.
what was it about the book and the existentialism that changed your perspective?
Letting go of ideas around like destiny and also dealing with like I had a lot of like suicidal ideation at the end of my drinking and also in the first year of my recovery.
Oh,
Especially when I was around 4 months sober and 11 months sober. I had a lot of ideation. I was feeling very, and it was weird because when I was sober, I was scared, like I was too proud to like tell people.
oh,
I was like,
yeah.
oh, Sam, you're doing so good. And I was like, yeah, good thing I don't want to die all the time, because I was embarrassed to talk about it. And I think that's really
Yeah.
harmful. And I try to talk pretty openly about it, because I've lost a lot of friends in recovery. I probably lost like 4 or 5 friends in recovery to suicide. And
Oh, I'm so sorry.
yeah, yeah, it's part of the deal, man. They say that this 12 step stuff will break your heart, is what they say. So.
Yeah, I remember when I first got sober, they said if you stayed sober long enough, you'd go to a lot of funerals, and that's absolutely been my experience.
Yeah, yeah, I agree 100% that it's strange now too is like I still have friends of mine that I got high with that I'm still really close with. Um and they do their thing and they pass away occasionally. But what's strange is that a lot of the people that pass away now aren't people I got high with, they're people that I met at meetings.
Yeah.
And a lot of times like maybe it's a relapse and an overdose.
Hmm.
But yeah, I've probably lose more people now that from that people that I met in recovery than people that I used to get high with. Just because it's
Yeah,
been like 16 years. I've been sober like June will be 17 years.
that's a
So
long time.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're telling me.
I mean, I think that speaks to why so many people are so adamant about, doing the deal, right? Working the steps, staying
Hmm.
close, going to meetings, things like that, things to take care of your sobriety because the consequences for some of us is pretty severe. We're a very high risk group. Those of
Amen.
us that are, have really struggled with that. I crashed and burned early because I was severe in the way I drank and used. They say the addiction's like a spectrum, right? There's some people that
Hmm.
can moderate and listen, I was not that girl. It
No.
sounds like you weren't either.
Hell no. I was never that girl.
I knew you were gonna say that.
I was a wild lady.
You were a wild child.
No, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't there's no there's no kind of half stepping with me because
Yeah.
I don't have I can't just it's not something that I can watch. It's something that I have to be engaged with. Like I have to like it kind of had to become my life. You know, and I would
Yeah.
say that I can't really say that it's my life now, but like it's such a deep part of me and like how I'm made up because I'm not one of these people that like I got sober and I got my life back. Like I had nothing. Like my addiction stuff started so early and I was so volatile that people didn't stay in my life. The only thing I had really was my mom. She's the only one that I didn't run off, you know. So when I got
Yeah.
sober, it's pretty much just me and her. And like friends came back in the picture and like people that I thought like were done with me are now I'm very close with a lot of people that I never thought I would be. But I didn't get my life back. I just got a chance to start a new one. So
Yeah, it doesn't sound like from what I understand, the life that you had was one that you wanted back anyway.
I was having a good time for a minute there.
For a minute.
Yeah.
If looking back over the last 16, 17 years, would you say that you is there like a go-to mantra that you use? Has there been like a theme for your sobriety?
Yeah, a thing that really stuck with me is this I know it sounds weird, but it's just these two words and it's not me. So like when I've been arrested in recovery. I had a job as a bouncer. Um and even when I was done with my shift, I'd go down to this other nightclub in Olympia and was like getting in fights down there and stuff, just like friends of mine that um you know, I was involved. No, I wasn't involved in like gang stuff, but like I have my people, my friends, and like we have like I was really involved in like the rap scene around here and like just making bad decisions that I shouldn't make. And a lot of times like I'll see something and I'll be like, that person should be punched. You know, like that is a fair thing for that person to experience right now. And you know, the thing is that maybe that person should be punched. However, not me. Like I'm not the guy who should be making these decisions on who should get punched and who shouldn't. And
Yeah.
like it's really selfish. Like it's a very selfish way of thinking when like I put myself as an arbiter, you know, not like obviously like everybody's gonna like we're all judgmental, like we can't help that or whatever. We're gonna judge people. But like I should not be able to make those decisions for other people. And I stopped being a bouncer. Like there was stuff when I was a bouncer, like there was a bartender in the back. I've told this story a few times, but there was a bartender in the back, really sweetheart gal. She was pretty new to like the service industry. And some guy grabbed her crotch, you know, like assaulted her. And on his way out the door, she was like, Sam, stop him. And I clotheslined the guy and I sat on top of him and I slapped him. And because like we weren't really big on like calling the cops and stuff like that because it's like it doesn't like that's not gonna do anything, you know, like but I I don't know if I did the right thing. And what I wound up learning from that bouncing thing, what I learned from that whole thing, it's not that like I was making a good decision or a bad decision while I was there. The decision that I made was that I should have a job bouncing at the dive bar. And
Yeah.
that's because of like my low self-esteem. So like my self-esteem put me in a position where I had to make these decisions, as opposed
Right.
to going back to school, which I eventually did. So
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? That's such a good self-awareness to be like, oh, it wasn't the decision to sit on him and slap him. It was the decision before that to have that job that put you in the position.
I would agree with you 100%, except for the self-awareness part. Because what happened was a bunch of people that are in my recovery, like orbit, were like, Sam, why are you a bouncer?
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, I like it, you know? And like, I would like, you know, it's like every weekend I'd be like fighting and shit. And like, I don't like to fight. Like, I get scared. Like, I don't want to fight anybody. Like, I like
Yeah.
the adrenaline or whatever, but like, it sucks. It's scary. I haven't put my
Yeah.
hands on anybody in so long. It freaking rules. And I haven't had
Yeah.
anybody put their hands on me, you know? I
Funny how
love
that
that.
works. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
I
crazy.
love that.
Crazy.
The peaceful life. It's a good thing.
I
Yeah,
like it. I like it.
I
I want
like
to
it
be
when
a
you're
good girl.
good girl. Yeah, that's really good. Um, do you have a regular self-care practice, like a morning routine, or do you have like a weekly? What does that look like for you?
I work out every other day. I'm doing strength training now. I was just doing cardio. I got the high cholesterol diagnosis and my blood pressure was up. And that stuff, I'm on some medications and also I work out and those things are doing fine now. And I do that. I got a therapist. I
Nice.
walk my dog. I sit in front of this coffee shop called Bar Francis in downtown Olympia. And after we record this, I have a few things to do around here and then I'm going down there. And a lot of times, man, I can sit on my phone and get my work done, So I'll sit in front of that coffee shop and talk to my friends. It rules. I know a lot of people, and especially
Mhm.
in the morning downtown, like if you sit in the same place around the same time, um, a lot of days, you're gonna run into the same people. And a lot of those people I already knew, and a lot of them I've gotten to know, and it's nice. So
Yeah, it
yeah.
sounds like a lot of connection.
Yeah, yeah. And then comedy itself too. Being able to do stand-up comedy at a high level, it does make me feel really good. I do some really amazing shows. I've had some really amazing opportunities. Yeah, yeah.
I heard you just recently booked your biggest gig ever. Is that true?
Yeah, yeah. I'm doing a whole weekend at Zany's in Chicago,
Oh my
you
God.
know. Zany's is like the legacy club in Chicago. So it's like I think it's the oldest comedy club in Chicago.
Wow, that's
And
amazing.
yeah, it's the same, like pretty much all, if you know a comedian that's like any famous comedian, they might not do it now, but they've always worked. Like Zany's is the spot. So yeah, and I'll be in Rosemont the day before. Yeah, I actually just booked Wise Guys in Salt Lake City yesterday too.
Oh, nice.
What's cool is I'm gonna do a Wednesday, no, a Thursday I'm gonna do a Wednesday in Boise, Thursday Salt Lake City, Friday Grand Junction, Colorado, and then Saturday Denver. I'm gonna bring my youngest son with me. I think we're gonna fly into Salt Lake City and rent a car together.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
really excited. Yeah, he's gonna love it. So,
That's
yeah, I
awesome. Well,
just
I'm in
booked
Boise,
Knoxville yesterday.
so
Oh yeah, you're in Boise. Yeah, I just booked Knoxville too, and I'm excited about that.
yeah. Well, I'm going to leave a link to your website so people can check out your tour dates and all that stuff so they can link up. So just for those listening. I'm curious, I want to dig into your self-care a little bit more. Do you do like a regular set of meetings? Do you do prayer, meditation, journaling, any of those kinds of things?
It's not a regular set of meetings, but I have like my home group. I generally try to go on Tuesdays when I'm in town. Sometimes that's harder. If I can't make it to that, I'll go to another one. I went to a 7 a.m. yesterday. And then when I'm on the road, like I go to a lot of out of town meetings, and that's very, very nice. And I really enjoy that. I just went to one in Massachusetts, in this little town in Massachusetts. And it's funny because they asked me to speak. They asked me to share my story for like 30 minutes. None of them knew who I was.
We
And
had
when
no
I,
idea.
no, no. And it's funny because like I start sharing and like I'm doing it, like I did a good job. Like I was honest, like
Yeah.
I got emotional like 3 times. And that's the thing is like, that's the difference between me doing stand up and me at a sharing in a meeting
Uh-huh.
is that my goal is different. My goal when I share at a meeting is to talk about my experience, strength, and hope,
Yeah.
and to help like a newer alcoholic. And a lot of times that does involve humor. Like I don't try to not be funny when I share at a thing. So like if I speak for 30 minutes, like I started like people were laughing, I was being funny because I'm funny. And then towards the end of my, like I was like kind of talking about what it's like now, and I'm like, yeah, 11 years ago I started doing stand up, and like that's what I'm out here doing. I'm on tour right now. And man, it was so funny watching everybody in the room be like, "Oh, now," and they're all in Boston. They're like, I get it now. Like,
Oh, it all makes sense now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I knew he was a comedian. I don't know why my Boston accent sounds like an Australian. I'm not good at accents,
I was like, what is that?
but yeah, and I have I got a sponsor and all that stuff, and I stay in
Nice.
contact with him, and yeah,
Yeah.
our relationship has changed over the years to where we're kind of just looking out for each other at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not actively in the steps right now, but like I stay on it, especially 10, like that's like, if I really get after 10, I like to avoid 4 and 5 and 8 and 9. But that doesn't always happen that way. So usually once a year, I'll
Well, I like the idea of the maintenance steps, 10, 11, and 12, right? Because 10 is
hmm
it's really a four step. And then, it just we do all the things that's required around the four step, making amends and
hmm
doing all that stuff and then continuing to nurture this relationship with a higher power and then helping others. And so you do I see you do that all the time.
I really do try. I try.
Yeah.
I have to watch myself. Like a big character defect of mine is like the gossiping and stuff, and a lot of
Mhm.
that comes along with comedy, and
Oh,
but I'm better at it than I used to be, as far as like watching that stuff. Because it's like I struggle with jealousy, and like I'll see other comics that are getting this or that. I'm gonna tell myself a little bit there, like I could do better on that. But generally, I really have been kind of able to have that live and let live kind of spirit like soak over me, you know?
yeah.
I try.
I tell you what, jealousy and envy aren't something that people really talk about too much because I feel like there's a lot of shame tied to that. But I feel it too. Like when I see other podcasters doing well that have way less time than me. People
Yeah.
people doing well on social media. It seems like there's this funny thing on social media where people with early sobriety just get so much love and support. And then those of us that are like long timers, I realize this sounds like very like self-pity and kind of gross. Um, but it's like nobody cares about us. Nobody, nobody seems to
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. I
they
think
think, oh, you're good. Like you don't need
yeah.
support. You don't need, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah.
It's like we're just even though if you've been sober a long time, we're just like everyone else.
Yeah, yeah, I see that. I can see that for sure. My big point, I think that frustrates me with comics is when comics that I perceive to be like good at comedy, um, undercut each other and take gigs for
Mm,
low to no money. And like I'll get offered money for a gig and I'll turn it down, which is hard for me to do because I have that fear there that what if it doesn't come back around?
yeah.
And then I'll see one of my peers take that gig and it frustrates me. I'm like, why? This is why they won't do better and like offer more money is because they know that one of us will do it. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not me, it's not me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That would be frustrating. Well, let's talk a little bit about how we got here.
okay.
Um, so story of origin type stuff, and you can share as much as or as little as you like, but I'm always curious, to start kind of with like what family was like growing up for you.
My dad was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. My mom was a sweetheart, that wanted to make things better between me and my dad. My dad and me had a tumultuous relationship. Um, there was like a lot of physical abuse, a lot of mental abuse, a lot of but I loved him too. Like there was like a lot of
Yeah.
amazing stuff that he did. Um, I Yeah. And then I mean, I don't want to like trauma dump or anything like that, but it's just some really like and a lot of it didn't come to light. So he died when I was 12 and a lot of my dad kind of came to light after he died, like who he was and what he was doing. and things that had happened. Um, you know, um, there was I had a dog, and there was a mess with the neighbor, and it came to light that my dad said that he took the dog to a farm, and he didn't. Like my dad, he shot my dog, and then freaking, see, this is what I'm talking about, the trauma dump. And he is this okay that I'm
I
talking
was
about this?
I was just gonna say, so I feel like people really need to hear the darkness because
Okay,
do you know what I
okay.
mean? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah.
safe
I
to
just want to
share
make
whatever
sure.
you
Yeah,
want.
I'm fine talking about it, but I
Yeah.
know sometimes people they they want, because I don't tell this story that much, but I figure that I might as well. The So what's crazy is that my dad, like, I showed up one day and the dog was gone, and my dad said that I took the dog to a farm. Um and I was like, oh man, that's sad. But also, like, that's cool. He's on a farm, he gets to run around and do dog stuff. Um, so my dad had this big beef with the neighbors down the street, and a beef in which my dad pulled a gun on the neighbor, and I was friends with um me and those neighbors' daughters. They were the Lavernes, and I was best friends with Sarah, their daughter. And we used to ride our bikes up and down the driveway and do all kinds of stuff. And there wasn't a lot of other kids in the neighborhood. Me and Sarah were really close. And then my dad pulled a gun on Bruce because my dad got drunk and tried to sleep with Bruce's wife. And then Bruce tried to fight my dad. My dad went and got his gun. um, and then to get back at my dad, I got off the bus one day and Bruce was like, Sam, I feel like you should know this. He goes, your dad shot your dog. And then I remember, because my dad was like a big guy like me. I'm about 6'6", 350. I think my dad was probably like 6'4". He was huge too. And I was just a little kid. I think I was like 11 at this point. And I remember, like, I ran down the driveway and I tried to beat up my dad, like I was like slamming on
Yeah.
him. And what's weird is that any other time, man, if I like tried to put my dad would have just, like, that would have been it. Like, he would have whooped my ass, you know what I mean? But
Wouldn't.
like, it's like he knew that he had this coming. And but he convinced me that Bruce was lying and that Bruce was like the enemy. And it wasn't till after I got sober. Um Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was before I got sober. But either way, like, I realized that, like, my dad grew up a certain way and he looked at animals a certain way, and he saw the world much differently than what society accepts now. And yeah, and I'm still pissed, like, it's weird when my brother, who's older than me and also in recovery, he had the chance to kind of like work stuff out with my dad, and I never had that opportunity, and but anyway, like I said, man, I loved him too. Like, he was like a war hero, and I don't know, it's complicated, like a movie.
Yeah.
But around that time is when I started drinking and getting high. I was like 12, 13. I was huffing earlier than that, and I was drinking earlier than that. Like, there's actually a picture of me drinking like a long neck beer when I was like 5 or 6. And the weirdest thing is, like, yeah, you shouldn't, obviously 5-year-olds shouldn't be drinking beer, but it cracks me up that somebody in my family was like, "Oh, there's a good picture," and they took a picture of me drinking this beer,
They're like,
and
oh, isn't that cute?
isn't that cute? Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, the it was off to the races. I remember being in, like, I think I was in 6th or 7th grade, the first time I really got like stoned, and I was like, oh man, this is it. Like, I really thought that, like, I had cracked the case of life. I was like, oh, I'll just be like high, and then everything will be fine. And I was so excited. Like, and like, not like a gross, weird excitement, but like a genuine excitement to be like, oh, like, my whole life I've been not, like, you know what I mean? I've been not doing this right.
Mm.
Like, this is what's wrong. Um, and it started off this thing, and I say this, and it's like a through line in my story,
Mm.
is it for me, like, getting high was secondary to not being sober. Like I hated being sober way more than I love being high. Like before
Mm.
I was 12, I was scared of my dad. And then after he died, I was scared of everything else unless I could get drunk or high. And then I'd be
Wow.
like, okay. And so like I was I was in full I hate to it's like a cliche, but I was in full flight from reality. And yeah, and then the traditional kind of like I'll skip over this part because everybody knows this story. It's like, I started with weed. I have a joke about it. I started with weed because I heard it was a gateway drug, and that's how I like getting into yards, the gateway. Uh, so yeah, weed, psychedelics, cocaine, methamphetamine, and booze. Yeah, booze became the thing though. I drank more than anything else, and I smoked a lot of pot. But then methamphetamine was a big part of my story, especially in the last couple years. But was around off and on for the 8 years prior. I started using methamphetamine occasionally. Let me see. I must have been 18. Yeah, 18. 17, whatever. I was young and we were doing coke and then coke turned into meth. That didn't it wasn't like a magic wizard that turned it into meth. We just didn't have enough money.
That's usually how it goes, right? That I always
Yeah,
wonder
yeah,
about
yeah, yeah.
young
I got a
people.
joke about it. I go, I love a bargain. I go, that's why I did meth instead of coke.
Love a bargain.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
the goodwill drug,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
My
Value
husband,
Village, baby. Let's go.
let's go. Yeah, my husband was one who he got sober when he was 18, but cocaine was his DOC. And I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
how did you even afford it? And he just had a rich friend who just didn't want to
Oh,
get,
that rules. I've had
yeah,
some rich friends, but they
yeah,
didn't like me after a while because they always realized that like I didn't really care about them. I just wanted to get high.
yeah. That's how it
I
goes.
mean, I cared about them. I don't know why I said it like that. Like I care about people a great deal and I always have. I just care about getting high way
More.
more than people. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. That's how it goes. I'm curious about when you were young and your father died because you found out this whole fiasco about the dog happened. It sounded like a year before he passed away. How did your father die?
Cancer. He had lung cancer. They say it was from asbestos in Vietnam.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
So he was sick
uh,
for a while?
it happened really fast. Like
Mm,
one day he came home. I remember he had a cough and then he went into the hospital and then they sent him home and the cough just kept getting worse. And then the next time he went to the hospital, he just never came home. And I think it was like a month or something. Maybe
oh
not
my
even that.
God. Wow.
Because I think he waited too long. And even if he would have caught it in time, I don't know if there's anything they could have done.
Yeah.
But I mean, when I say like it happened fast, like it happened fast. And the hardest part about having my dad die was not when he actually died. It was watching him in the hospital and like this feeling of like helplessness.
Yeah.
And then also what was hard is that after he died, the feeling of like relief that I had, because I did feel a lot safer when he wasn't around, and I was guilty about that. And then
Yeah.
also the way people treat you and you're like the dead dad kid, like
Yeah.
that shit sucked.
People
Like I
treat you
hated that.
differently.
Yeah, and there's like these absolute sweethearts, and I know they meant well, but my mom had these like hippie friends on the west side of Olympia. Um, and my mom, who is, just lost her husband and is dealing with the realities of being a single mom of a kid with, even at that point, even though I wasn't like getting high a lot then, I had severe behavioral issues, like
Mm.
severe,
What
like attention
kind?
seeking stuff. I'd be fighting and just being a fucking turd, being dangerous.
Mm.
I mean. God, messing around. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but like messing around with like guns and shit, like just being like a real turd, like a real
Yeah.
turd.
She was
And
afraid. She
not,
must have been afraid for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like that feeling of like helplessness and like being like I was openly hostile to teachers and any form of authority even before I started getting high. I hated having people tell me what to do. Like I was just, and a lot of it, you could like ADHD, whatever.
Mhm.
Like I do know that I have ADHD and I do have medication that I can take for it when I so wish, but I didn't take it today. I don't take it all the time. I can take it when I want to take it and when I don't want to. If I have like a lot of paperwork to do, I'll take ADHD medication.
Yeah.
But if I don't, I don't take it. So
Yeah, yeah, because you've done a lot of healing. Do you think when you look back that all that anger came from what was going on between you and your dad, like all the unresolved feelings of, because it's really tough to be a little kid experiencing so much violence and still
yeah,
loving your dad because little kids doesn't matter how abusive parents are, kids always love their parents
yeah.
and they always want the
Um,
parents to love them back. So do you feel
there
like that
was
was,
there was that with my dad for sure. The this like world of like high stakes. Like everything with my dad felt like everything was like black or white and like either you're successful or you're like a failure. There's no in between. And like wanting to live up to this legacy of like going to West Point or going to the Air Force Academy and becoming a hero like he was and like listening to him tell stories and like I love listening to him tell stories. He was such a good storyteller. A lot of like my charisma or whatever, I got it from him. Um, but there was a point, and I know we were talking a little bit before the podcast about like about family stuff
yeah,
and like
yeah.
how it works. Um, there was a thing that happened when I was like, I mean, see, I think I was a freshman in high school. So this is 2 years, 2 or 3 years after my dad had passed away. I think I was 15. Um, what I was doing was I was prescribed Ritalin and I was selling my Ritalin and buying weed and other things, because I'm a businessman. And
You're an entrepreneur.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And Ritalin, I was like, I can't feel Ritalin. It doesn't do anything. Weed gets me stones. Ritalin just makes me not pop off. It makes me boring. It dulls my edges. But anyway, I got caught selling my Ritalin and they searched me. And what they found that though was they found some weed on me.
Mm.
Um, but the way it went down though is check this out, right? So like I'm sitting in Mr. Atwell's class. He was my favorite teacher, as in Western Civilizations, which is my favorite class. And I did very, very well in that class because I liked Mr. Atwell and I thought and I don't know, he was just a cool teacher. And I like history a lot. And a cop shows up in the classroom and like arrested me in front of everybody because they were
Oh
trying to like make a point.
no.
But check this out. I was such a little shithead. I was like, you know what? This looks pretty badass.
Yeah.
And so I was like playing it up. I was like, you ain't got shit on me, like being Mr. Tough Guy. And then
You were a
the
legend
cops,
after that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The cops took me to the office. And we went into this conference room and my mom was already sitting there. And when I saw my mom, I just started bawling, because
Oh,
everything, and I'm gonna get emotional for a second, like everything that happened, the thing that I hate the most is what I did to my mom.
yeah.
Um, my mom went through hell and I went through hell too, but like I feel like she is the biggest victim of my alcoholism and my addiction more than me,
Yeah.
because she didn't get to see yeah, but this is so I think you're gonna appreciate this. Like, and I just talked about this on another podcast too, but like, there is a point, and I talk about this a lot in a lot of things I do because it really is like, this is the point where I really think that there was an opportunity there, for healing and for growth, and they missed it, right? And so, they were like, Sam, sit down. And, my mom was standing up. And so there was a cop, the vice principal, Mr. Lennis. And I'm sitting on one side of the table, and then my mom sat with them. She sat on the other side of the table
Ooh.
with them. She didn't sit with me. She sat with them.
Uh-oh.
And at that point,
Oh,
it's funny I said I wasn't gonna swear. I was like, fuck everybody, fuck everything. Like I'm burning it
yeah.
down. And I never, so that was when I was 15. And it
Yeah.
was more than like I'm gonna get high. It was just I don't give a shit. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like I was completely, and there was moments like I still love my mom like so much. But like now that I look back on that, it was like, and so like, yeah, and then it's just the chaos, it's the rehabs, the jails. I had some magnificent nights. I slept with beautiful women in abandoned houses. Went to jail on mushrooms, just really interesting things
Yeah, that's what happens, right?
to
Did you,
experience.
in that moment where your mom sat on the other side, did you feel like she betrayed you, or did you feel like you were alone?
I felt so alone. Just like, I'm just like, and this is the thing that the way, like society, they're so focused on the fact that the weed and the Ritalin and all this stuff. And it's just like, man, like you guys couldn't just be like, why? Like, why is he so, why? Like, why? And I don't know if there's anything that anybody could have done for me. Like, I
Hmm.
don't know, but um at that point, it's like, yeah, dude, like I'm done, dude. Like this is it. Like you guys have made it clear that you're in opposition to me.
Yeah,
And I don't know. Yeah. I didn't realize how big of a deal it was at that point, but geez, like what a
the
gut
betrayal.
punch,
Yeah. Yeah, you really
What a
needed her
gut
support
punch.
at that time.
Yeah, yeah. And I know that she was doing the best that she could, Like I forgive her 100%.
I feel like it's,
I don't forgive the cops and I don't forgive the school.
yeah,
Like I think that at that point in time they should have known. Like arresting me in that classroom was stupid. And that
yeah,
was by the way, that officer his name is Dusty Pierpoint and he was a lieutenant for the Lacey Police and then he
yeah.
became the chief of Lacey Police and he ran for Congress and he lost really bad because nobody likes him. So
So there, fuck that
yeah,
guy.
I should stop using his name. I shouldn't lift it up or whatever. But like, if he ever wants to talk to me and reach out about how bad of a cop he was, I'm open to those discussions.
Well, I think it's so interesting because I'm 56 and I don't know how old you are, but I feel like back in those days they weren't not trauma informed. Like they didn't
Yeah, yeah,
have the
yeah,
information that we have now. Like
yeah.
they didn't realize like the harm they were doing when they
Hmm.
isolated you like that. Like we know now that kids need to be everybody has this need to be seen, heard, and understood, right?
Yeah,
It's better, it's more productive to align with somebody who's in pain than to put them on the opposition and make them feel like
yeah.
they have to defend themselves. So that's a very, but they
And
didn't
I agree
listen.
with, yeah.
A
Go ahead.
harm
Sorry, I didn't mean to
done.
cut you off.
No, you're
Yeah,
fine. I mean, I'm a talker, but it's like harm done, right? Like
yeah.
maybe they didn't mean it because they didn't have the information, but the harm was done and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
were
And I
hurt.
would argue, when I'm singling out Dusty Pierpoint like this, I would say that there was another cop named Officer Brooks. And my deal with law enforcement is my deal with law enforcement. And Officer Brooks arrested me one time. He was like another cop that was at our school. Um, but also he let me off one time when I was really going through it. And you know what's crazy is that we would never talk to Pierpoint, even if we knew about some like really bad stuff. And what was crazy is that because Officer Brooks like had a decent relationship with me and my friends, there was this dude who was a legit pedophile, and we would never tell Pierpoint anything, but we actually were down to talk to Officer Brooks about it because we knew that he wouldn't hem us up because like it's crazy, like me and my friends were selling weed to this dude, and we knew he was sleeping with like this girl at our school, and he was like in his 50s, and like
Mm,
we knew it was gross, and we were actually down to tell Officer Brooks about it. But and it's funny because Pierpoint was so into this, like running and gunning and trying to bust us for weed that like who knows what kind of stuff he missed. It's bad policing.
yeah, it really
Um,
is. Yeah.
but
That's rough though to have that. you're carrying all this trauma from your relationship with your dad when he was alive, and then he dies. And then, did you get any therapy or counseling after your father passed away?
Yeah, it just didn't, I just wasn't there for it.
You
It
weren't
was,
ready?
unfortunately what happened is when I had that thing with the table and like it's just like everything, all I wanted to do was get high. That's the only thing that made me feel any better. Like everything else was just everything else,
Yeah.
like it really was like because before the thing with the table and my mom and the school, it was like I hate the school. I hate the cops. And then it was like, oh, and I can't really trust my mom either because like she doesn't get it. Nobody gets
Yeah.
it. Nobody gets it except some of my friends, like they got it. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of kids go through that,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
for me it was so it's hard to decipher like what's just part of growing up, what was addiction and what was trauma due to my dad passing away, what was trauma due to my dad being alive?
Yeah.
Where is that line? And I still don't know. And what's important now is that I'm willing to do the work to like get through that stuff. That's what I
Yeah.
do. So,
Yeah, that's what's important.
mhm.
Walk me through the end. I know you had some arrests, you were got into a lot of trouble. When did you start turning things around?
Oh yeah. So here's a funny story. So I wound up homeless. My mom kicked me out at a certain point, which I don't blame her
How
for.
old were you?
Um, I started dealing with homelessness at like 18 or 19, couch
Okay.
surfing, stuff like that. And I would come home every couple weeks. She would let me back in and but then it got to be longer and longer. I'd spend longer and then I was like lived in a barn and all this stuff and eventually I wound up going to a job corps and I learned how to be a wildland firefighter and I actually got my life together because when I was at the job corps I couldn't drink or get high and I really liked being a firefighter. I really liked it. I did a year with the Department of Natural Resources and 2 years with the Forest Service. And then, yeah, and eventually I got fired from the Forest Service for drinking, wound up doing a bunch of meth again. I was living it like a puppy mill. Uh, I got in a lot of trouble. And I recently talked about this, but like I'm okay with putting it out there again. But like there was some stuff that happened, like I stole a car from a guy I shouldn't have stole a car from. Not that you should steal cars at all, but I stole a car from the wrong guy. And it was really bad. I'm not going to go into it right now, but like basically like I got tied to a chair, whole nine, like tortured, stuff like that,
Oh my
because I
God.
stole his car and I couldn't remember where the car was. I didn't have like I couldn't remember what I did with the car, like and I tried to sleep with this dude's wife. I guess I learned it from my dad. um, you know, wound up with like a deer rifle in my face. And he said, that was that. I almost froze to death. Um, Before that, I got robbed, almost froze to death one night. Was living in an abandoned house with no heat and like just, um, yeah, it was all like as bad as I ever thought things could get. I just surpassed those all the time. So like, a lot of times, you know, I remember like walking around and it's almost like I just watched a bomb like go off every single day, like right in front of my face. And it's just like, what like and I would think back to like who I was, or I think back to good times drinking. Um, I think back to like girls I dated, women I loved, and places that were beautiful. And like all of that was gone. And it was just if I was by myself, I was suicidal. Like if I
Wow.
was around other people, I could keep it together. But I would like I remember I'd be over at a friend's house or something, and then I would walk back to this house that I was staying in, and knowing that it's going to be dark and cold and I'm going to be alone. And yeah, The only thing that stopped me from killing myself is my mom. I just couldn't do that to my mom.
Yeah,
And
that's
it got to a
brutal.
point, yeah, and it got to a point where like I was very resentful at her being alive. And I remember one time I went back home for a visit and we were driving out on the Oregon coast and I thought about taking the car off a cliff. And like I was like, then we're both gone and then I don't have to worry about it. And it'd be better for both of us because she doesn't have to watch my life fall apart and then I can be done, you know. And I'm not proud of
Yeah.
that shit, but like that's where it got to. Um anyway, I slept with I didn't sleep with the dude's wife, but I tried to. He put that gun in my face, and I basically got run out of that town, this little town. And I came back home. I told my mom I was going to go to meetings and get my shit together. And then June 9th, 2000, I was lying. I wasn't. I was going and getting high, and she knew it. And then I was homeless again in Olympia. And June 9th, 2008 was my last night drinking and using. June 10th, 2008, I woke up in front of the Capitol Theater under a tarp and with a lady. And I don't know why I think this is so funny. I have jokes about this because that's what happens now. I woke up under a tarp. We were doing tarp stuff.
Tarp stuff.
Uh, yeah, yeah, see? I love that. And I saw a lady walking her dog before work, and she gave me a look. And when she gave me that look, like something snapped in my head that has never snapped before. And in that moment, I was like, I need to get off the fence. Either I need to kill myself or I need to get help. And luckily I decided to get help. And that was the last time I got high,
That's
to
crazy.
this day. Yeah. So
Oh,
like,
wow.
I went through some really severe withdrawal stuff that I wasn't expecting. I had some, obviously the alcohol, but I suppose at the end, I think I was doing a lot of benzos and stuff too.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a seizure and like all this
Mm.
other stuff at my mom's house, and she didn't know that I had a seizure, but I knew I had a seizure. Like, and it was not just a seizure, but I had a seizure with a mouthful of sunflower seeds,
Oh, no.
which I don't recommend. So
Oh, my God.
I don't know, man. It really helped me. Like, I remember I'm sitting there on this couch and I'm just like, this is how bad. And then at 4 days, I went to my first meeting. Not my first meeting. I'd been to meetings before. I've been to meetings in jail. Went to
Mm.
a lot of meetings in jail because when you go to a meeting, you get to get out of your cell. And I'm always a big fan of getting out of my cell.
Yeah.
Um, and I'd been to some other ones too when I was doing rehab and stuff. And like, what's weird is I always kind of liked it. I always kind of liked it. I was like, oh wow, there's like people here, and they seem to be doing okay. And but then it was always like this thing. It's like, that's all well and good, but I was like, I don't need that. I can stay sober on my own. And then,
Do you feel like
uh,
you hear those ideas that, people hear the message and they're planting seeds and these are
yeah.
ideas that take root over time. Do you buy into that?
Not only do I buy into that, I know that's 100% the truth.
Yeah.
What's crazy is you asked me about therapists and stuff after my dad passed away, like grief, like counselors and stuff.
Yeah.
I had a um I had a counselor when I was in fourth grade named Dr. Walker, and I think he knew what was going on with me and my dad.
Oh,
And Dr. Walker, he called everybody baby, and it was like not in a weird way. Um, but I don't know. He was a really great counselor, and he tried to teach me this thing called the STAR principle when I was in fourth grade, and it was but anytime you do something that might get you in trouble, you got to remember STAR, and you stop, think, then you act, and then you review.
mm,
And that was I was in fourth grade and I was living with like a maniac and I already hated like I hated my life. And
yeah.
then
What
yeah.
is it about that makes you sad now?
It's not sad, it's just yeah, I guess it is sad. Um I don't know. I wish I didn't have to go through all that stuff that I went through. I wish I wish that yeah, I wish I lived by the star principle and not like what happened, you know?
Yeah.
And also just Dr. Dr. Walker. I know he was already pretty old when I was working with him in fourth grade. And I don't know. He talked to me in a way that I understood. And he made me feel better. And
Yeah,
like
he was somebody.
he was like an island in this like, this sea of pain that I was living in. And
Yeah.
yeah, Dr. Walker. And there was a few other folks like that that were really good to me.
That
But
showed you
Dr.
some
Walker
kindness.
stands out. Yeah, Dr. Walker stands out. I just wish yeah, I just wish it went different.
Yeah.
I love who I am now, but I wish you know, maybe I didn't have to go that hard to become interesting. Like I know this sounds strange, but like I am grateful, especially comedy wise,
Yeah.
because like I feel like there's those of us that have like looked over like the precipice. That's one of the reasons why I get along so much better with like addicts and alcoholics a lot of times
Yeah.
than other people. Even folks that are still using sometimes. Like I'd rather hang out with, obviously I'm not going to let them borrow my laptop or anything like that, but like I'd rather hang out with like a drug addict than like a normie, like because I understand. I
Hmm.
understand that drive, like this
Yeah.
this like engine.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, so yeah, Dr. Walker, and then after I got sober, like using the star principle, you know.
Yeah.
And then my sponsor helped me a lot with this like 5 minutes thing
Hmm.
where like anytime I'm doing something that might get me into trouble, just wait 5 minutes and then do it. And 95% of the time, I just don't do it. And that's
Yeah.
helped me so much in my career. Oh my
Mhm.
God, you
Yeah.
know.
Restraint of tongue and pen, as they say, first thought wrong.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Don't give in to that first thought.
Right.
So you started going to meetings and mentioned your sponsor. You've had one sponsor this whole time?
Yeah. Yeah, he
That's
rules.
wild. That's
Yeah, I
really
like him.
cool.
I
Yeah.
fired him for like 3 days. But
What'd he
then I took him
do?
back. Huh?
What'd he
This
do?
stupid social media bullshit. Politics, social media shit. It's so fucking stupid.
Oh my
Sorry,
God, I
I'm
hate
not
social
trying to
media.
swear too much, but I think
That's
the
okay.
for alcoholics and addicts, like the only thing worse than drinking is social media.
Oh my
So
gosh. Yeah.
yeah,
Don't even get
I
me
say that,
started.
yeah, as somebody who's made a career with it. So
Yeah, it's so funny because it's sort of I'm a podcast host, so it's like a necessary evil. But
yeah,
yeah, it can be, I have to have pretty severe boundaries around social media. Otherwise, it literally will suck the soul out of my body.
amen. Yeah,
Yeah.
amen.
Yeah. So you've been sober a long time. I'm curious, how is it to be on the road and like, yeah, you're a dad now, you have a couple kids, they're 11 and
Hmm.
14, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So how are you a different, I know you're vastly a different father than your dad was, but what lessons did you learn from your dad that make you a better parent today?
Huh. Well, there's the avoiding the obvious like
Abuse,
abuse stuff. Like
violence.
so like I'm very I do not put my hands on my kids like that, and I never will. There's a couple times where I've squeezed their arms too hard, and even that I have to watch out for. I also try not to yell. I've yelled, I don't know, maybe like 15 or 20 times or whatever. But even that's like way too much, especially like my size. I want my kids to respect me, but I don't want them to fear me. I don't think
Yeah.
that does anything. Um, I actually have a great relationship with both my sons. And that's that's the coolest thing that recovery has brought me, I think, is that
Yeah.
like my kids I say this sometimes when I if they ask me to share at a thing, and my kids are not scared of me. Like I was so scared of my dad. Oh my God. Like hearing his car come down the driveway
Oh
when
man.
I knew that like I knew I had did something wrong, and like hearing his car come down the driveway and just like that feeling of just like my heart just like sinking, like, oh man, here we go, you
Yeah.
know. And then he'd fly off the handle and then take me to McDonald's the next day to make me feel better, you know. Like that
Like
was
that
like
was
a
his way
big
of
thing.
apology.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, man, me and my kids, man, we're good. They're turds. And sometimes I worry that I should be stricter. I think they get too much screen time,
Mm,
whatever, you know.
yeah.
But this it's whatever. They're doing good.
Yeah. I
Their
just interviewed
grades
a
suck sometimes,
I
but
just interviewed a doctor that talked about authority with love is like the best thing that you could give your kids. Like just having them know that you love them, but that there are boundaries.
oh yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm not a pushover either because I think some people take it like too far. Like
Yeah,
I have a
for
lot of
sure.
friends of mine that are like super hippie, like anarchist types and stuff like that. And they're like they're the way they parent sometimes they're like, "Oh yeah, like our kids decide like that like everything and it's cool and like to each their own." And I'd
Yeah.
rather have that than like the super strict abuse stuff. But
Yeah.
like I've had my friend come over with his kid and his kid is like throwing my kids' toys around and almost hitting my t TV like that would break.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I'm gonna tell him to stop if you don't tell him to stop because this shit's crazy, dude. Like,
Yeah. That's not okay.
yeah, yeah, you're setting him up, and you know, eventually whatever we think about the world and like we can do what we can to change it, but eventually they are going to run into like authority and like they're gonna have to deal with like, yo, you can't talk to people like that or else
Yeah.
you're gonna get beat
Consequences.
up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, something's gonna
Yeah.
happen. But yeah, I love being a dad. My kids are pretty cool. Um it's pretty dope. Me and my wife are doing amazing, which is really cool.
How long have you been
So,
married?
13 years.
Nice.
It'll be 14 in July. We've been together 16, 15,
Is she in
whatever.
recovery?
Nope.
She's a normie.
She's a normie. Yeah. Yeah. I actually met her at the bar I worked at. So I got lucky. It could have gone really bad, but
They
um,
say that, okay, so they say that you can't meet a good person at a bar, but this is you're proving them
mm-mm.
wrong.
Nope. They lie. They
They lie.
lie.
They also
No,
say you,
you know, and also, you know, I met her. I was like 4 months sober.
oh my,
And
that is so, I was 5 months sober when I met my husband.
there you go.
Actually,
There
when we
you
got
go.
together, I was 5 months sober.
Yeah, yeah. It's yeah, you know, it was hard. Um it was hard for us and
Yeah,
we had some rocky moments, especially after the first kid was born and I'm working three jobs. She was working one crappy one.
yeah.
And then after Oliver was born, our second kid, and then I started doing comedy about a year after that. That was really hard because the comedy stuff just like took over. So,
And that's
but
all
we're
at
doing better
night and
now than we
stuff.
ever have. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. There's something about, being with somebody who is is not like us. It
Yeah.
could give you a little bit of grounding. Well,
Yeah.
listen,
Yeah.
I want to be respectful of your time. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. We're gonna leave all your links in the show notes. With if somebody is curious about how to reach out to you, you have a pretty good social media presence. You're on
I do.
Instagram?
Yeah. You're better off. Yeah. So on Instagram, it's Sam Miller Comedian. Facebook, it's Sam Miller Comedy. The best way to get a hold of me though is actually off my website, sammillercomedy.com. There's a contact me
Nice.
button. Yeah. And yeah, come see me do comedy live.
Dude, I
If
can't
you're
wait.
in
If you're gonna be out here in
recovery,
Boise, I'll be in front
I know,
row.
you know what's funny is I actually, while we were talking, I'll show you, I want to show you something else that's important for me in my ADHD
Uh-huh.
is these lists. See that?
Yeah.
That's what I do. I make lists and yeah, I check stuff off. And so let me
Nice.
see what see, I got stuff to do. I got stuff to do. And
That's
yeah,
awesome.
but look, I did the dishes yesterday and I unpacked. Look, I'm clicking stuff. It feels so good.
Yeah,
Oh
check
my
that shit
God.
off.
Yeah,
That's
I love it.
amazing.
Yeah,
Good
it's cool. But
deal.
yeah, I had a really good time. You asked good questions, and
Thanks.
it's funny. I still can't. But you know what's weird is I think I'm going to write something about Dr. Walker. I think that
Yeah.
would be a good thing for me to do. So
Yeah. It sounds like
yeah.
he was really important. Sometimes we all just need a little beacon,
Oh yeah, and
a
he was that
little.
for sure.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for all that you shared today and congratulations on all your success. And I look forward to seeing you in Boise.
Yeah, that'll be great. Let's do this again sometime.
I would love that. Thanks.
All right, cool. Bye.